My sister told me she needed just a few days of shelter, then reordered my books, opened my mail, and whispered through the door, "I liked what you did with your sheets." When I confronted her, she said, "You always needed someone watching you. Admit it." I didn't answer. That was 2 months ago. This morning, she was crying in my parents' driveway. They didn't let her in. I hadn't seen my older sister in almost 9 years, not since the night she destroyed my 18th birthday. She faked a pregnancy scare right in the middle of my party, claiming she was cramping, pale, maybe bleeding, causing our parents to shut down the celebration immediately and rush her to the ER, leaving me behind with a house full of confused friends and half-melted ice cream cake. By the time they returned at midnight, it turned out to be just stress, no baby, no explanation, no apology, just relief that overshadowed my feelings entirely. Throughout my childhood, she stole my science project, crashed our parents' car, and even blamed me for her shoplifting phase. Yet somehow, I was always the one grounded while she got hugs and second chances. That night, I realized I didn't just have a selfish sister, I had parents who let her walk all over me, every single time. 9 years later, I was doing okay. Steady IT job, my own condo, zero contact with family, and peace. Then one random Thursday, a Facebook message appeared. "Hey, I've been thinking about you. I miss you." It was her, my sister. Part of me wanted to delete it and pretend it never came, but another part, the part that always hoped she'd change, decided to answer. She claimed she'd been attending therapy, felt terrible about the past, and wanted to fix things. Against my better judgment, we met for coffee. She looked freshly polished with a fake tan and fake lashes, but she came to me with real tears and hugged me as if we'd always been close, making me realize I wasn't over it, that I still wanted my sister back. She told me she was struggling, living with a guy who screamed a lot, and on really bad days, he'd throw pots and pans at her. She said she finally saw how toxic our parents had been, and that she envied my life. We talked late into the night when she eventually asked to crash at my place, just for a few days, because she needed to breathe. So I let her. Biggest mistake I ever made. Initially, it seemed fine. She cooked dinner once, offered laundry help, praised my furniture as though on HGTV. But soon things got weird. She stayed out till 4 a.m. every night. Soon mysterious packages arrived, some in my name. But as soon as I went to open them, she would run in the room and snatch it away saying, "Sorry, accidentally put the wrong name." One time I caught her snooping through my dresser drawers, though she laughed it off saying, "I was hoping your bra might fit me." But nope, too small, like always. It stung a bit when she said that, but I tried not to take it personally. One morning, I found her crying at my home office desk, saying she'd messed up and needing me to co-sign a loan for a course that would change everything. She promised I'd receive payments and played on my past belief in her. She was right. I'd always believed her before. I covered for her sneaking out at 14, took blame for her vape pen at 16, forgave her soap opera drama on my 18th, but I wasn't 18 anymore. "You remember what you did on my birthday?" I asked. She just stared at me and said, "What birthday?" Exactly. I refused the loan, refused co-signing, refused more chances, and her tears instantly stopped as she snapped, accusing me of playing victim, believing myself superior because of my boring job and suburban condo. I told her to pack. She declared me dead to her and left 2 hours later, stealing wine, a hoodie, and spare keys, forcing me to change locks immediately. I thought it was over until my bank alerted me to another loan application in my name. My credit app confirmed she'd tried again. This time I didn't call her. I called a lawyer. Her name was Morgan Reeves, and she had the kind of no-nonsense attitude I needed right then. Her office was small but professional, with degrees covering one wall and a massive filing cabinet against another. "This is unfortunately common with family members," Morgan said after I explained everything. "They have access to your personal information, know your history, and can anticipate your moves, but that doesn't mean you can't fight back." She helped me draft cease and desist letters to Vanessa, and even to Mark. We filed formal fraud alerts with all 3 credit bureaus and sent dispute letters to the credit card companies. Morgan also suggested I start recording all phone calls, legal in our state with one-party consent, and saving every text, email, and social media message. "Document everything," she emphasized, tapping her pen on her legal pad. "The more evidence we have, the stronger our case." I left her office feeling slightly better. At least I had a plan now. I decided it was time to go back to my condo. Tara offered to come with me, but I knew I needed to face this alone. My place felt different when I returned, like someone else had been living there. Nothing was obviously wrong, but small things seemed off. My coffee mugs were arranged differently in the cabinet. My books weren't in the same order on the shelf. The shower curtain was pulled closed when I always left it open to prevent mildew. I did a thorough check of every room, looking for hidden cameras or other signs of intrusion, but found nothing concrete. That night, I barely slept. Every creak and groan of the building had me sitting upright in bed, heart racing. Around 3 a.m., my phone pinged with a text message. It was from an unknown number. "Sweet dreams, sis. I like what you've done with your bedroom, especially those new sheets." I nearly threw up. She'd been in my apartment. She'd been in my bedroom. I turned on all the lights and checked every closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain, anywhere someone could hide. No one was there, but that didn't calm my nerves. I pushed my dresser in front of the door and slept with a kitchen knife under my pillow. The next morning, I called a security company and had cameras installed at my front door and in my main living areas. It cost almost $800, but the peace of mind was worth it. I also added a door bar and new deadbolt. The locksmith, an older guy named Phil, gave me a sympathetic look when I explained it was my second lock change in 2 weeks. "Boyfriend trouble?" he asked as he worked on the door. "Sister trouble," I replied. He nodded knowingly. Family can be the worst. My brother-in-law cleaned out my garage once, took every power tool I owned. Somehow, that small moment of shared experience made me feel less alone. Other people had crazy family members too. I wasn't the only one dealing with this kind of betrayal. I went back to work the next day. The investigation into the anonymous email had cleared me completely, but I could still feel some colleagues watching me with suspicion. My boss, Dave, called me into his office to check in. "Everything okay at home?" he asked. "You seem seems stressed lately. I considered telling him the whole story but decided against it. Office gossip was the last thing I needed. Just some family drama, I said vaguely. Nothing I can't handle. Well, if you need time off or anything, just let me know, he offered. I thanked him and went back to my desk, throwing myself into work as a distraction. Around lunchtime, I got a call from my bank. There had been an attempt to change my mailing address for all statements and correspondence. Thankfully, the bank's security protocols had flagged it as suspicious since the request came from a different state. Did you recently move to Florida? The bank representative asked. No, I said, my stomach dropping. I definitely did not. After hanging up, I called Morgan right away. She advised me to put fraud alerts on my accounts at the post office and with all utilities as well. She's trying to redirect your mail, Morgan explained. It's a common tactic in identity theft cases. They want to intercept bills and statements so you don't see the fraudulent charges. That evening, I checked my security camera footage from my phone. Nothing unusual appeared. No sign of Vanessa or anyone else trying to break in. I was just starting to relax when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a delivery guy holding a large bouquet of flowers. I opened the door cautiously, chain still in place. I didn't order any flowers. Delivery for Sarah, he said, checking his clipboard. That you? I nodded and accepted the bouquet after signing for it. The flowers were beautiful, roses and lilies arranged artfully in an expensive-looking vase. The card simply read, I'm watching you, always. No signature, but I knew who they were from. I dropped the vase in the trash chute and washed my hands thoroughly, as if I could wash away the creepy feeling the flowers had given me. Then I added the card to my evidence file and updated my log with the details of the delivery. The next day was Saturday, and I decided to do something normal for once. I went to my favorite coffee shop, laptop in tow, planning to catch up on some personal emails and maybe watch a movie. The barista, Jake, greeted me by name. Hey stranger, haven't seen you in a while, he said as he prepared my usual order, vanilla latte with an extra shot. Been busy, I replied with a forced smile. Your sister was in here yesterday, he continued casually. She looks just like you. Well, except for the hair, and she's a bit taller. I froze. My sister was here? Yeah, she said she was visiting you. Super friendly. She asked a bunch of questions about you. How often you come in, what you usually order, if you ever come with friends. I thought it was sweet she wanted to get to know your routine. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set my coffee down. Jake, that woman is not my sister. I mean, she is, but we're not in contact. She's been stalking me. Jake's eyes widened. Oh, shh. I'm sorry. I had no idea. She seemed so normal. That's her specialty, I muttered. Did she say anything else? She mentioned something about your parents being worried about you. Said you'd been acting strange lately, cutting off family. I didn't think much of it at the time. Great. Now even my favorite coffee shop wasn't safe. Vanessa was systematically poisoning every part of my life, turning strangers against me before I even knew she'd been there. I thanked Jake for the information and left, my coffee barely touched. When I got home, I had an email from my landlord. Apparently, someone claiming to be my emergency contact had called to report concerning behavior from my unit. Neighbors supposedly complained about screaming and crashing sounds late at night. The landlord was just checking in, but mentioned that continued disturbances could violate my lease terms. I called him immediately and explained the situation. He seemed understanding but warned me that he couldn't ignore legitimate noise complaints if they continued. Family drama is one thing, he said, but I have to consider all the tenants. That night, I got 3 pizza deliveries I never ordered, all COD with large tips added to the bill. I refused them all but felt terrible for the confused delivery drivers. Then around midnight, someone started pounding on my door, yelling my name. Through the security camera, I saw it was Mark, Vanessa's boyfriend. He was clearly hammered, swaying slightly as he continued banging. I know you're in there, he shouted. Open the door. We need to talk about what you did. I called the police, speaking quietly so he wouldn't hear me. While waiting for them to arrive, I recorded his behavior through the security app on my phone. He eventually gave up and left before the police arrived, but I showed them the footage. They took a report but said there wasn't much they could do since he hadn't actually threatened me verbally or managed to get inside. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of notifications on my phone. Someone had created fake profiles using my name and photos on several dating sites. The profiles described me as looking for no strings fun and included my real phone number and workplace. My inbox was flooded with crude messages from strangers. I spent hours contacting each site to report the fake profiles, but the damage was already done. I changed my phone number that day and emailed my new contact information to my boss, close friends, and important contacts. I also had to explain to HR why I was suddenly receiving inappropriate calls at work. The HR director, Patricia, was sympathetic but clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. Perhaps you should consider a restraining order, she suggested, sliding a pamphlet for the Employee Assistance Program across her desk. I'm working on it, I assured her. My lawyer is gathering evidence. Speaking of evidence, I now had quite a collection. Morgan was impressed when I met with her again, bringing a neatly organized folder of screenshots, recordings, photos, and a detailed timeline of events. This is exactly what we need, she said, flipping through the documents. I think we have enough for a temporary restraining order. It won't solve everything, but it's a start. We filed the paperwork that day. The hearing was scheduled for the following week, which meant I had to endure several more days of Vanessa's harassment, and she didn't disappoint. That very night, I came home to find my car had been keyed in the parking garage. Long, deep scratches ran the entire length of both sides. The word liar was carved into the hood. I immediately checked with the building management about security footage, only to learn that the cameras in that section of the garage had been malfunctioning since earlier that afternoon. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. The security manager, Robert, seemed genuinely apologetic as he showed me the blank footage from that time period. The system showed it was recording, but when we tried to access the files, they were corrupted, he explained, looking frustrated. We've had issues with this particular camera before, but never this bad. I knew Vanessa couldn't have hacked into a security system system, but I wondered if she might have found another way to tamper with it. Perhaps she'd made friends with someone who worked in the building. It wouldn't be the first time she'd charmed her way into getting what she wanted. The next day, I received an email from my student loan servicer confirming my request for forbearance due to hospitalization. I had made no such request. When I called to correct this, the representative seemed confused by my denial. According to our records, you called yesterday and provided all the necessary verification information, your social security number, date of birth, and even correctly answered your security questions about your mother's maiden name and your elevated school. A chill ran down my spine. Vanessa would know all of that information. That wasn't me, I insisted. Someone is impersonating me. Getting my internet restored took 3 days and required an in-person visit to their office with multiple forms of ID. I was starting to feel like I spent all my time just proving I was me and undoing Vanessa's sabotage. The emotional toll was becoming unbearable. Each night I'd collapse into bed, exhausted from the day's battles, only to lie awake worrying about what new violation I'd discover tomorrow. The constant vigilance was wearing me down, checking my accounts multiple times daily, scrutinizing every email, jumping at unexpected sounds. I felt like I was losing pieces of myself, becoming defined by this conflict, rather than by who I actually was. The final straw came when I received a call from my doctor's office confirming my appointment with Dr. Winters, the psychiatrist. I had never made such an appointment. It says here you called yesterday, the receptionist said. You were quite insistent about needing help with delusions and paranoia. Said you'd been imagining a sister who doesn't exist. My blood ran cold. I never called. I don't even have a psychiatrist. Well, someone called using your name and insurance information. They even knew your medical history. I felt violated in a whole new way. My medical records were supposed to be private, protected by HIPAA laws. I asked the receptionist how someone could have accessed that information. I'm not sure, she admitted. But they had your insurance ID number and knew about your allergy to penicillin and that visit for bronchitis last winter. We assumed it was you. I immediately called my insurance company to report the breach and then contacted my primary doctor's office to put a security alert on my file. They suggested I file a HIPAA complaint, which I did, though I knew it would take time to investigate. I also added this incident to my growing evidence file for the restraining order hearing. The day of the restraining order hearing finally arrived. I dressed professionally in a simple black skirt suit and low heels. Morgan met me at the courthouse, reviewing our strategy one last time. Stick to the facts, she advised. No emotional outbursts, no matter what she says or does. Judges want to see that you're reasonable and genuinely afraid, not angry or vindictive. I nodded, trying to calm my nerves. We waited in the hallway outside the courtroom, and that's when I saw her. Vanessa walked in with a man I assumed was her lawyer. She looked completely different from the last time I'd seen her. Gone was the flashy outfit and perfect makeup. Instead, she wore a modest navy dress with minimal jewelry and her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked like she was auditioning for the role of responsible young professional. Our eyes met briefly, and she gave me a small, sad smile, as if she were the wounded party. I looked away quickly, my heart pounding. Morgan squeezed my arm reassuringly. She's playing a role, Morgan whispered. Don't let it get to you. Inside the courtroom, I presented my evidence calmly and clearly. I explained the history of Vanessa's behavior, both recent and from our childhood. I showed the judge the credit card statements, the fake profiles, the threatening messages, and the police reports. My voice shook slightly at times, but I managed to get through it without breaking down. Then it was Vanessa's turn. She transformed before my eyes, her voice soft and trembling as she spoke. Your Honor, I'm heartbroken to be here today, she began. My sister has always had difficulties. Our parents worried about her tendency to exaggerate and create scenarios in her mind. When she cut off contact with our family 9 years ago, we respected her wishes, hoping she would get the help she needed. I gripped the edge of the table, forcing myself to remain silent as she continued weaving her lies. Recently, our parents asked me to check on her because they were concerned. I reached out and was initially encouraged by her response, but when I visited her, I noticed concerning behaviors. Her apartment was covered in strange notes. She seemed paranoid, accusing me of things I hadn't done. I tried to suggest she speak to someone, a professional, but that only made her more agitated. Vanessa dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I believe she's created this elaborate story about me harassing her because she can't face her own issues. These so-called fake profiles and credit cards, I had nothing to do with them. I've been trying to help her, not hurt her. Her lawyer presented character witnesses, friends who described Vanessa as caring and devoted to her family. One even claimed to have witnessed me having a meltdown in public, screaming about being followed. It was completely fabricated, but delivered with such conviction that I saw the judge's expression shift slightly. When it was time for cross-examination, Morgan was brilliant. She methodically exposed inconsistencies in Vanessa's story, presenting phone records that showed calls from Vanessa's number at the exact times the harassment occurred. She showed the judge the lipstick message on my bathroom mirror through photos I'd taken, pointing out that the handwriting matched samples of Vanessa's writing from birthday cards she'd sent me years ago, which I'd kept. And can you explain, Morgan asked Vanessa directly, why your boyfriend Mark appeared intoxicated at my client's door at midnight, an address he would only know if you provided it? Vanessa blinked rapidly. I don't know what you're talking about. Mark and I broke up months ago. Morgan played the security footage showing Mark clearly saying Vanessa's name as he pounded on my door. Vanessa's composure cracked slightly, but she recovered quickly. He must be stalking me too, she said. That's why I left him. He's unstable. The judge seemed skeptical of this convenient convenient explanation. After both sides presented their cases, he called a brief recess to review the evidence. Those 15 minutes were the longest of my life. I sat rigid in my chair, avoiding looking at Vanessa across the room. When the judge returned, he granted my temporary restraining order. Vanessa was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. She was prohibited from contacting me directly or through third parties. The judge also ordered a full hearing in 30 days for a permanent restraining order pending further investigation. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, but it was short-lived. As we left the courtroom, Vanessa brushed past me in the hallway, whispering, "This changes nothing. You've only made things worse for yourself." Morgan heard her and immediately made a note of the threat. "We'll add that to the record for the permanent hearing," she said loudly enough for Vanessa to hear. I spent the next week in a strange limbo. The restraining order provided some peace of mind, but I still felt on edge. I changed all my passwords again, put additional security freezes on my credit, and even considered moving to a new apartment. The financial strain of all this was starting to take a toll. Between lawyer fees, security equipment, locksmith costs, and car repairs, I'd spent nearly $5,000 already. Then one evening, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was simply, "Truth about Vanessa." I almost deleted it, assuming it was more harassment, but something made me open it. "You don't know me," it began, "but I know your sister. My name is Jordan Wilson, and I dated Vanessa for about 6 months last year. I recently saw a post she made about you on social media that seemed off, so I did some digging. What I found disturbed me enough that I felt I needed to reach out. She did similar things to me when I broke up with her. Identity theft, harassment, spreading rumors to my friends and family. I didn't press charges because I just wanted it to end, but I regret that now. I have evidence that might help your case if you're interested. Call me if you want to talk." A phone number followed the message. I stared at my screen, heart racing. This could be another of Vanessa's tricks, a fake email designed to lure me into some trap. But what if it was legitimate? What if there were others out there who had experienced the same treatment from Vanessa? I called Morgan before doing anything else. She advised caution, but agreed it was worth investigating. "Let me reach out first," she suggested. "I can verify if this person is real and if their story checks out." 2 days later, Morgan called me with news. Jordan Wilson was indeed real, and his story seemed credible. He had dated Vanessa after meeting her at a yoga studio, and their breakup had triggered a campaign of harassment similar to what I was experiencing. He had documentation, texts, emails, police reports that showed a pattern of behavior consistent with what Vanessa was doing to me. "He's willing to testify at your permanent restraining order hearing," Morgan said, "and he thinks there might be others." Apparently, Vanessa mentioned other ungrateful people she'd taught lessons to during their relationship. This was a major breakthrough. If we could establish a pattern of behavior, it would strengthen my case enormously. Morgan suggested we try to find these other victims before the hearing. Over the next 2 weeks, through careful investigation and with Jordan's help, we identified 3 more people who had been targeted by Vanessa: an ex-boyfriend before Jordan, a former roommate, and a co-worker who had reported her for stealing from their workplace. Each had experienced some form of harassment, identity theft, or reputation sabotage. 2 had moved to different cities to escape her. 1 had changed her name. I met with Jordan in person at Morgan's office. He was tall with kind eyes and a nervous habit of running his hand through his hair when he spoke. The similarities between our experiences were chilling. "She seemed so normal at first," he said, echoing my own thoughts. "Charming, funny, attentive." Then little things started happening. My mail would disappear. Friends would mention conversations with me that never happened. My car was vandalized twice. "Did she ever admit to any of it?" I asked. "Never directly, but she would say things like, 'Isn't it weird how bad things happen to people who cross me?' with this little smile. When I finally broke up with her, she looked me dead in the eye and said, 'You have no idea what's coming.' A chill ran down my spine. It was exactly the kind of thing Vanessa would say. With 4 witnesses willing to testify about similar experiences, Morgan was confident about our chances at the permanent restraining order hearing, but Vanessa wasn't done with me yet. 3 days before the hearing, I received a call from my parents. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. It had been 9 years since we'd spoken. "Sarah?" My mother's voice sounded older, more tentative than I remembered. "Is that you?" "Yes," I replied stiffly. "What do you want?" "We're worried about you, honey. Vanessa told us you've been having problems, that you're accusing her of terrible things." Of course she had gone to our parents. I should have expected it. "Did she tell you she stole my identity? That she's been stalking me and trying to ruin my life?" "She said you might say those things," my father cut in. His voice still had that dismissive tone I remembered so well. "She's shown us the restraining order. Do you know how much this is hurting her? She could lose her job over this." "Good," I snapped. "She should lose her job. She's a criminal." "Sarah, please," my mother pleaded. "We know you've always been sensitive about Vanessa getting attention, but this has gone too far. We want to help you." I laughed bitterly. "Now you want to help me? Where was this concern when she ruined my birthday? Or when she stole my science project? Or blamed me for her shoplifting? You never believed me then. Why would you start now? That's all in the past," my father said dismissively. "You need to drop this restraining order nonsense and come home. We can get you the help you need." "I don't need help," I said firmly. "I need you to finally see Vanessa for who she really is. But I know that's never going to happen. Don't call me again." I hung up, hands shaking with anger and old pain. Some things never changed. Even after 9 years, they still took her side without question. I added the call to my evidence log, noting the date, time, and what was said. At this point, documenting everything was second nature. The day before the hearing, I received a large envelope at work. Inside was a formal-looking document titled Petition for Involuntary Psychiatric Commitment, with my name on it. It wasn't official, just a template printed from some legal website, but seeing my name on such a document sent a wave of panic through me. Attached was a note that simply read, "Tomorrow's just the beginning. I always win." I called Morgan immediately. She assured me that Vanessa couldn't actually have me committed without substantial evidence and multiple medical opinions, but the threat itself was significant. Bring it to the hearing, she advised. It's another example of harassment and intimidation. That night, I barely slept. Every noise made me jump, convinced Vanessa had found some way past the restraining order. I checked and rechecked my door locks, windows, and security cameras. Around 3 a.m., I received a text from an unknown number. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, sis. Hope you're ready for what comes next. I added it to my evidence file without responding. The hearing was at 9 a.m., just a few more hours, and maybe this nightmare would finally start to end. The courthouse was busier than it had been for the temporary order hearing. Morgan met me at the entrance, looking confident in a sharp blue suit. We have a strong case, she assured me. Just stay calm and stick to the facts, like before. Inside, I was surprised to see not just Jordan, but all 3 of the other victims we'd identified. They sat together in the gallery, a united front against Vanessa's manipulation. Jordan gave me a small nod of encouragement. Vanessa arrived with both a lawyer and our parents. Seeing my mother and father after so many years was jarring. They looked older, of course. My father's hair now completely gray, my mother's face more lined. They didn't look at me as they took their seats behind Vanessa. The hearing began with my testimony. I presented the new evidence of harassment that had occurred since the temporary order, including the commitment form threat and the call from my parents. Morgan then called Jordan and the other victims one by one. Each told their story calmly and clearly, describing the pattern of behavior that matched my experience exactly. The judge listened attentively, occasionally glancing at Vanessa as the testimonies built a damning picture. When it was Vanessa's turn, she had clearly prepared. She appeared with medical records claiming I had a history of paranoid delusions. The records looked authentic at first glance, with official-looking letterheads and doctor signatures. These records show my sister has struggled with reality perception for years, Vanessa said, her voice dripping with fake concern. I've only tried to help her, to get her the treatment she needs. These people claiming I harassed them are friends of hers, participating in her delusion. Morgan was ready. She had subpoenaed records from the actual medical facilities Vanessa claimed had treated me. The representatives testified that the documents Vanessa presented were forgeries. I had never been treated at their facilities, and the doctor signatures were fake. The judge's expression darkened as this evidence was presented. When Morgan showed the threatening text messages, the fake profiles, the credit fraud documentation, and finally the petition for commitment form, Vanessa's facade began to crack. Ms. Reynolds, the judge addressed Vanessa directly, these allegations against you are extremely serious. Do you deny sending these messages or creating these fraudulent documents? Vanessa's lawyer whispered something to her, but she ignored him. My sister has always been jealous of me, she said, her voice taking on a harder edge. She's manipulated these people into lying for her. She's the one harassing me, trying to ruin my life because she can't stand that our parents love me more. The mask had slipped. The judge raised his eyebrows at her outburst, making notes on his pad. Morgan seized the opportunity, presenting the evidence of Vanessa's boyfriend showing up at my door, the security footage of my vandalized car, and the testimony of my neighbors about Vanessa's lies. The final piece of evidence came when Morgan called Charles, my building's maintenance supervisor, to testify. He nervously explained that a woman matching Vanessa's description had approached him several times in the weeks before the first restraining order. She told me she was Ms. Reynolds' sister and had locked herself out, he explained, fidgeting with his work badge. She offered me $200 to let her in the first time, saying it was embarrassing to admit to her sister she'd lost her key. And did you let her in? Morgan asked. Charles looked down. Yes, ma'am. She had family photos on her phone showing them together, and she knew details about the apartment. I thought she was legitimate. Did this happen more than once? 3 times total. The last time she offered $500 because she said there was a new security system. She told me her sister was having mental problems and sometimes changed the locks when she got paranoid. The judge's expression grew increasingly severe as Charles described how Vanessa had manipulated him to gain access to my apartment multiple times, explaining the mysterious changes I'd noticed and how she'd been able to bypass my security measures. Vanessa's composure completely collapsed. She deserves everything I did to her, she shouted suddenly. She abandoned our family. She thinks she's so perfect with her condo and her job and her friends. She needed to learn what it feels like to lose everything. The courtroom fell silent. Even Vanessa seemed shocked by her own admission. Her lawyer put his head in his hands. Our parents looked stunned, finally hearing the truth from their favorite daughter's own mouth. The judge didn't need to deliberate long. He granted the permanent restraining order, effective immediately for 3 years with the possibility of extension. Additionally, he referred the case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges related to identity theft, forgery of medical documents, and harassment. Ms. Reynolds, he addressed Vanessa sternly, I strongly suggest you seek professional help. This vindictive behavior is deeply troubling and, as you've now publicly admitted, deliberate and premeditated. This court has a zero-tolerance policy for the kind of harassment you've inflicted. As we left the courtroom, Jordan and the other victims surrounded me like a protective shield. My parents stood awkwardly in the hallway, looking like they wanted to approach but didn't know how. I walked past them without a word, 9 years too late for that conversation. Outside the courthouse, I finally felt like I could breathe again. It wasn't over. There would likely be criminal proceedings, and I still had the mess of my credit to clean up. But for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Thank you, I said to Jordan and the others. I don't know if I could have done this without you. Jordan smiled. When I got away from her, I promised myself I'd help anyone else she targeted. I just wish I'd known about you sooner. As we stood there talking, I noticed Vanessa exit the courthouse with our parents. She looked directly at me, her expression cold and calculating even now. The restraining order meant she couldn't approach me, but the look in her eyes told me this wasn't truly over. She might be legally required to stay away, but someone like Vanessa always found ways around the rules. Morgan joined us, looking pleased with the outcome. "This is a significant win," she said, "but stay vigilant. People like your sister don't give up easily." I nodded, watching as Vanessa got into our parents' car and drove away. I knew Morgan was right. The restraining order was just a piece of paper. It wouldn't magically protect me from everything Vanessa might try next. But for the first time since this all began, I wasn't facing her alone. I had allies now. People who believed me, who had experienced the same manipulation and survived. That night, I returned to my condo with a new security system being installed the next day, and Jordan's promise to check in regularly. I still jumped at shadows and checked my locks twice, but as I settled onto my couch with a glass of wine, I allowed myself to feel something close to victory. Vanessa had tried to destroy my life, just like she'd tried to ruin my birthday 9 years ago. But this time, I fought back. This time, I won. Or so I thought. Little did I know, Vanessa had one more card to play, and it would be her most dangerous move yet. I went to bed that night with Morgan's warning echoing in my head. "Stay vigilant," she'd said, and I planned to. I double-checked all my locks, tested my new security system 3 times, and even pushed my dresser in front of my bedroom door like I had before. It felt a little paranoid, but after everything that had happened, I figured better safe than sorry. The next morning, I woke up to blessed silence. No threatening texts, no emergency alerts from my bank, no strangers at my door claiming I'd ordered something, just normal. I almost didn't know what to do with myself. I made coffee, scrolled through my emails, nothing alarming there either, and actually managed to eat breakfast without feeling sick to my stomach. I decided to go into work early, hoping to catch up on all the projects I'd fallen behind on during this nightmare. My boss Dave noticed my improved mood immediately. "You look better," he said when I passed him in the hallway. "Things settling down?" I nodded. "Getting there. Got a permanent restraining order yesterday." "Good. Let me know if you need anything." He patted my shoulder awkwardly and continued on his way. Not exactly a heart-to-heart, but I appreciated the gesture. The next few days continued in this strange new normal. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Vanessa to find some loophole in the restraining order, but nothing happened. By the weekend, I was starting to relax a tiny bit. Jordan called to check in on Friday night. "Still quiet?" he asked. "Yeah, almost too quiet. Makes me nervous." I get that. After my thing with her ended, I kept waiting for the next disaster, but eventually I realized she'd moved on to someone else. That thought gave me pause. You think she's already found a new target? Maybe. Or maybe the court stuff scared her straight. Hard to say with someone like her. After we hung up, I decided to treat myself to dinner out. Nothing fancy, just the little Thai place around the corner from my condo. I was halfway through my pad Thai when I noticed a woman at the bar who kept glancing my way. She looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place her. When she caught me looking, she smiled and walked over. "You're Sarah, right?" she asked. I tensed immediately. "Do I know you?" "I'm Barbara. I work with Vanessa." She must have seen my expression change because she quickly added, "Don't worry, I'm not here on her behalf. Actually, the opposite." Against my better judgment, I let her join me. Barbara explained that she was an administrative assistant at the same insurance company where Vanessa worked. She'd overheard Vanessa on the phone several times, making what sounded like threatening calls. At first, I thought it was just client stuff, you know? Insurance can get heated. But then I heard her mention your name and she sounded scary. Not like the person I thought I knew. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, pushing my food away. My appetite had vanished. "Because yesterday she got fired. They found out she'd been using company resources to access people's personal information. Not just yours, lots of people. And now she's telling everyone it's your fault." My stomach dropped. "Great. I thought you should know. She's really angry. Like, scary angry." I thanked Barbara for the warning and asked for my check. So much for my relaxing dinner out. On the walk home, I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see Vanessa lurking in the shadows. I called Morgan as soon as I got inside. "This is concerning, but not surprising," she said after I explained. "People like your sister often escalate when they face consequences. The good news is that if she violates the restraining order, we can have her arrested immediately. And if she finds ways around it," I asked, "document everything, like before. And maybe consider staying with a friend for a few days, just until things settle down." I called Tara, but she was out of town visiting her parents. I thought about calling Jordan, but that felt weird. We weren't really friends yet, just people united by a common enemy. In the end, I decided to stay put. My security system was good, and I had the police on speed dial. That night, I dreamed about Vanessa. We were kids again, playing in our backyard. She was pushing me on the swing, higher and higher, until I was terrified I would flip over the top. I begged her to stop, but she just pushed harder, laughing. I woke up in a cold sweat at 3 a.m. and couldn't get back to sleep. The next day was Sunday. I tried to distract myself with chores and Netflix, but I kept thinking about what Barbara had said. Vanessa blamed me for getting her fired. In her twisted mind, this was all my fault. I wondered if she'd go to our parents for help again, or if even they had finally seen through her act. Around noon, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. "Hello? Sarah? It's Dad." I nearly hung up. "What do you want?" He sighed heavily. "I owe you an apology. A big one. Your mother and we've been talking a lot since the hearing. About Vanessa. About you. About how we failed you both." I didn't say anything. It was too little, too late. "Vanessa came to us last night," he continued. "She was hysterical, saying you'd ruined her life, gotten her fired. She wanted money to teach you a lesson. That's what she said. Those exact words. Now he had my attention. And we said no. For the first time ever, we said no to her. We told her she needed help. Professional help. She didn't take it well. What does that mean? She trashed our living room, broke your mother's china cabinet, said things I never thought I'd hear from my own daughter. Then she left, screaming that if we wouldn't help her, she'd handle things herself." My blood ran cold. "When was this?" "Last night, around 8. Have you seen or heard from her since?" "Number we tried calling, but she's not answering. We're worried about what she might do. To herself or to you." I thanked him for the warning, ignoring his attempts to extend the conversation. As soon as we hung up, I called the police to report what my father had told me. The officer who took my call seemed concerned, but said there wasn't much they could do until Vanessa actually violated the restraining order order. Keep your doors locked and call 911 if she shows up, he advised. I spent the rest of the day on elevated alert, jumping at every noise. By evening, I was exhausted from the constant tension. I decided to take a hot shower, hoping it would help me relax enough to sleep. As the bathroom filled with steam, I thought I heard something in the living room. A soft thud, like something being set down. I turned off the water and listened hard. Nothing. You're being paranoid, I muttered to myself, wrapping a towel around my body. But just to be safe, I grabbed my phone before opening the bathroom door. The apartment was dark except for the small lamp I'd left on in the living room. Everything looked normal, no sign of intrusion. I was about to head to my bedroom when I noticed something on my kitchen counter that hadn't been there before. A small gift box with a red bow. My heart started racing. I definitely hadn't left that there. I backed away slowly, fumbling with my phone to call 911. Before I could hit dial, a voice came from the darkened corner of my living room. Aren't you going to open it? I picked it out special for you. Vanessa stepped into the dim light, smiling that familiar cold smile. She was holding something in her hand, a small canister that looked like pepper spray. How did you get in here? I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. She laughed. You really should vet your security companies better. Your new installer Richard was quite helpful after I showed him some family photos and slipped him $500. I glanced at my front door. It was still closed and locked. She must have come in through the balcony somehow. You need to leave, I said firmly. You're violating the restraining order. The police are already on their way. A lie, but she didn't need to know that. No, they're not. But that's okay. We won't need much time. She gestured to the box. Open it. No. Her smile faded. Always so difficult. Fine. I'll tell you what it is. It's a thumb drive, with evidence that you've been the one stalking me all along. Faked texts from my number to yours. Emails where you threaten yourself pretending to be me. Even a lovely little diary where you detail your plans to frame me because you've always been jealous. That's insane. No one would believe that. People believe what they want to believe, sis. Our parents believed me for years, didn't they? Until you turned them against me too. Her voice hardened on the last words. I tightened my grip on my phone. Is that what this is about? Mom and Dad finally seeing through your act? This is about you ruining my life, she snapped. I lost my job because of you, my boyfriend, my apartment, everything. You did that yourself, I said, by breaking the law, by harassing me and who knows how many others. She took a step closer, raising the canister. Always so self-righteous. You know what this is? It's not pepper spray. It's a sedative, strong enough to knock you out in seconds. And when you wake up, you'll be in a very compromising position with enough evidence to suggest you attacked me, violated your own restraining order. My mind raced. The bathroom window was too small to escape through. The front door was behind her. The balcony was my only option, but I'd have to get past her first. Vanessa, think about what you're doing, I said, trying to buy time. You're only making things worse for yourself. Things can't get worse, she shouted. You've taken everything from me. I noticed her hand shaking slightly. Despite her bravado, she was nervous. I remembered what Jordan had said about her, that she relied on manipulation, not confrontation, that she backed down when directly challenged. No, I said firmly. I protected myself from you. There's a difference, and I'll keep protecting myself. I raised my phone so she could see the screen. I'd managed to open my security app while we were talking. The camera feed showed both of us clearly, and a small red dot indicated it was recording. You're on camera right now, I told her, breaking into my home, threatening me. All being uploaded to the cloud where my lawyer can access it. Her eyes widened slightly. You're bluffing. Try me. Or better yet, look up. I pointed to the small camera in the corner of my ceiling, its red light blinking steadily. For a moment, she looked uncertain. Then her expression hardened again. Doesn't matter. It'll be your word against mine once I'm done with you. She lunged forward, aiming the canister at my face. I ducked and shoved her as hard as I could, sending her stumbling backward into my coffee table. The canister flew from her hand and skittered across the floor. I made a dash for the front door, but she recovered quickly, grabbing my ankle and pulling me down. My phone slid away under the couch. We grappled on the floor, Vanessa trying to pin me down while I fought to break free. She was stronger than she looked, fueled by rage and desperation. She managed to get on top of me, her hands going for my throat. You think you're so much better than me, she hissed, fingers tightening. You've always thought that. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. In desperation, I reached out blindly, my hand closing around something solid, the heavy glass paperweight from my coffee table. I swung it with all my remaining strength. It connected with the side of Vanessa's head with a sickening thud. She slumped sideways, her grip on my throat releasing. I scrambled away, gasping for air, and retrieved my phone from under the couch. My hands shook as I dialed 911. I need help, I croaked when the operator answered. My sister broke into my apartment. She attacked me. I think she's hurt. Vanessa wasn't moving. A small trickle of blood ran from her temple where the paperweight had struck her. Panic seized me. Had I called her? I forced myself to approach to check for a pulse. It was there, steady beneath my fingers. She was just unconscious. The police arrived within minutes, followed by an ambulance. They handcuffed Vanessa even though she was still unconscious and loaded her into the ambulance. I gave my statement, showing them the security footage and explaining about the restraining order. One officer found the canister Vanessa had threatened me with. We'll need to test this, he said, bagging it carefully. If it contains what you say it does, that's attempted assault with a chemical agent. Very serious charge. I spent the rest of the night at the police station, giving a formal statement and filing additional charges. By morning, I was exhausted, but relieved. Vanessa was in the hospital under police guard, facing multiple felony charges. The restraining order violation alone would likely mean jail time. Morgan arrived at the station around 8 a.m., looking concerned but professional as always. Are you all right? She asked, examining the bruises forming on my neck. I will be, I said. Is it over? Really over this time? I think so. Breaking and entering, assault, restraining order violation, possession of a controlled substance with intent to harm. She's looking at serious time. And with her history now documented through our previous case, no judge is going to be lenient. I felt felt tears forming, the emotional weight of everything finally hitting me. I just wanted her to leave me alone. I never wanted any of this. Morgan squeezed my shoulder. I know, but you protected yourself. You did everything right. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal proceedings. Vanessa was charged with multiple felonies and held without bail due to being a flight risk. The canister had indeed contained a powerful sedative, stolen from a veterinary clinic where one of her friends worked. The thumb drive she'd brought contained exactly what she described, fabricated evidence meant to frame me. My parents tried to contact me several times. I ignored most of their calls, but eventually agreed to meet them for coffee. It was awkward and painful. 9 years of hurt and misunderstanding sitting between us like a wall. We failed you, my mother said simply. We let Vanessa manipulate us for years, and we failed to protect you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know we understand that now. It took a court case and criminal charges for you to see it, I pointed out. My father nodded sadly. We were blind, willfully blind, and I'm so sorry for that. I didn't promise forgiveness or a renewed relationship. Some wounds were too deep for simple solutions, but I did agree to think about it, to leave the door open a crack for possible reconciliation someday. Jordan called regularly to check on me, and we eventually started meeting for coffee or movies. Nothing romantic, just the comfort of someone who truly understood what I'd been through. Tara remained my rock, helping me redecorate my condo to make it feel like mine again after Vanessa's invasion. 3 months after the attack, Vanessa accepted a plea deal. 5 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric treatment. I attended the sentencing hearing, sitting in the back of the courtroom. She looked small in her orange jumpsuit, her fake tan faded and her roots showing. When given a chance to speak, she offered no apology, just a blank stare in my direction. As they led her away, I felt no satisfaction, no sense of victory, just relief that it was finally, truly over. I still jump sometimes when my doorbell rings unexpectedly. I still check my credit report weekly and keep my security system armed at all times. Some habits are hard to break after what I've been through, but the constant fear is fading, replaced by a cautious optimism about the future. Last week, I ran into Barbara, the woman from Vanessa's office at the grocery store. She smiled and asked how I was doing. Better, I told her honestly. Getting there. I'm glad, she said. You know, after everything happened, a bunch of us from the office looked into those client files Vanessa had accessed. We found 5 other people she'd been harassing. The company reached out to all of them. I think you started something important, helping people realize they weren't alone in what she did to them. That conversation stayed with me. The idea that by standing up to Vanessa, I might have helped others escape her manipulation felt like the first truly positive thing to come out of this nightmare. Yesterday, I finally took down the extra security cameras in my living room. I still have the main system, of course, but I no longer feel the need to record every moment of my life. I'm sleeping through the night more often than not. I've even started dating again. Nothing serious, just dinner with a guy from my building who always said hello in the elevator. Jordan says healing isn't linear, that there will be good days and bad days. He's right. Some mornings I wake up angry about everything Vanessa took from me, my sense of safety, my trust in others, years of potential relationship with my parents. Other days I feel stronger for having survived it all, for having fought back and won. The district attorney called last week to let me know Vanessa had been denied her first appeal. She'll serve her full sentence with no early release due to the violent nature of her crime. I thanked him for the update and then deleted his number from my phone. I don't need to track her movements anymore. I don't need to wonder where she is or what she's planning. For the first time in months, maybe years, I'm focusing on my own life, not looking over my shoulder. I'm planning a vacation. I'm considering a new job offer. I'm thinking about getting a cat. 9 years ago, Vanessa ruined my birthday, and I walked away from my family. I spent nearly a decade building a life without them, only to have Vanessa try to destroy that too. But she failed. In the end, her obsession with hurting me hurt her far more. I still have my condo, my job, my friends, my freedom, and now I have something else too. The absolute certainty that I can handle whatever comes next. Because if I could survive Vanessa at her worst, I can survive anything.